Hello guys, welcome back. I hope you're all doing great. In today's video, we're talking about discoveries and letdowns, a format where I get to talk to you about fragrances that I've been testing, some of which I like that I consider discoveries, and some that turned out to be letdowns that I was not crazy about or maybe just don't work for me. Nonetheless, I always do my best to describe each of the fragrances, what I might love, you guys may not like, and fragrances that I'm considering a letdown for me could be a fragrance that you might like. So these are just my opinions, my take on these fragrances. I have tried all of these on skin repeatedly, some more than others, and so they're not first impressions. And I have blotters here that have been pre-dipped for those testers that are the dab-on testers, just not to waste time on camera, although I do have a couple of spray testers, and those I'll spray on camera, and we'll talk about what all of these smell like. So let's start with the house of Serge Lutens, which is a house that I'm really a fan of. And this one is Écrin de Fumée, which is a fragrance that I received a sample of with my recent purchase of the Belle jar of Iris Silver Mist. And I have the official sample here. And I've been testing this one out, and I really do like this. I recently spoke about Santal Majuscule as well, another discovery, another fragrance on my to buy list. And that fragrance, along with this one, do come in the tall rectangular bottles that are really quite inexpensive at some discounters. So it's really a no-brainer. The Belle jars are a little more expensive. For 75 ml, they're about $320 to $350. But a lot of these fragrances that come in the tall rectangular bottles are really quite inexpensive in comparison to the fragrances out there when you consider how great they smell. So this one I've been testing, really like this. So this one is so good. In the opening, I get this cacao. The color of the fragrance is sort of like a dark brown color. It's really warm, it's boozy, it's rich. Without being cloying, it has that sort of chocolatey cacao aspect to it. And the booziness in the fragrance is not too strong. It's not overpowering the fragrance. There's hints of tobacco in here, and it's a little bit smoky to my nose. There's a sweetness, so there is this like round sort of gourmand aspect to this, but in the best way possible. And what I like is the balance in the fragrance. I like the way the gourmand aspect from this chocolatey cacao is sort of contrasted with these woodsy notes and this tobacco, and the booziness in the fragrance is not as apparent to my nose as it is to some others based on reviews that I've read. I don't get a ton of booze in the fragrance. It's something that sort of comes out as the fragrance is drying down, in my experience, and there's almost something from Chergui that I sort of detect in here, and it has almost like that same dusty quality that Chergui has. It's just really yummy without being overpowering, without being too sweet, without being too syrupy, without being too smoky. There's something a little bit almost like incense running through the fragrance, and there's a texture. It reminds me a little bit of Javoy's Pavilion Rouge, the way that fragrance has sort of that leathery texture with the boozy qualities, resinous, balsamic. It reminds me a little bit of this, but this has this prominent cacao. I think the cacao note does subside a little bit as it dries down though. It's really great. I love how as this dries down, it gets a little bit powdery. It's rich, it's brown, and it doesn't overdo the sweetness, doesn't overdo the booziness. It's perfectly balanced. I really like this one. Full bottle worthy, in my opinion. So this is Écrin de Fumée. So the next one was a sample that I was really anticipating getting my nose on. It was a little bit of a disappointment. I think based on the hype that this fragrance got about a year ago, 2 years ago, I was anticipating something that would wow me a little more, that would impress me, and it turned out to be a bit flat and a little boring. This is Indigo Smoke by Arquiste. I know this has a lot of fans. This might not be a popular opinion about this fragrance, but on my skin, I just found this very underwhelming. I thought this was going to be maybe a more full-bodied fragrance. I thought maybe it was going to be a darker fragrance based on the name. I thought I was going to be very impressed based on the hype, and I found it quite boring when I tried it on skin. I actually got 2 decants of this because it was so hyped, and I thought that I maybe was going to like it and would want to go through 2 decants before deciding on a full bottle, and I'm not really liking this one that much. To me, this just smells like a musky tea fragrance with some vanilla, and although I do get some hints of something a little bit aromatic or spiced in the fragrance, I do find it a little bit boring. So I'm just being honest. If you guys like this, don't be insulted, but on my skin, I found it to be a little flat, a little boring, and it was a little bit disappointing. So that's Indigo Smoke by Arquiste. I do love the House of Arquiste. I am a fan. There's an orange blossom fragrance that I want to get my nose on, which I'll do soon. So the next one is a fragrance that I don't have a spray tester for, nor do I have a blotter that's been pre-dipped, because I went through the entire decant. I do absolutely want to buy a full bottle of this, and this is MDCI's La Belle Helene. Bertrand Duchefort is the nose behind this fragrance, and he did his magic with the pear note in here. So this is a beautiful fragrance. There is still a little left in here. It's stunning. It is a soft fragrance, but it's nonetheless done really, really well. So the note listing is pretty extensive for this fragrance. I feel like a lot of Bertrand Duchefort fragrances have an extensive note listing, but at the end of the day, this is a fruity floral fragrance that has sort of a powdery, almost a little bit of a vintagey vibe to it. It's so juicy. I think that this will be perfect for the summer. The pear note in here is mild, it's not sweet, it's juicy, and it's photorealistic. I am not a fan of fruity fragrances. I am definitely not a fan of fruity, sweet floral fragrances, and there are many out there, but I do like how this is done. And it is one of the typical MDCI fragrances in the sense that it's high quality, it's not a loud fragrance, it's not necessarily a daring fragrance. It might be a little bit mass appealing, but nonetheless, it's well done. It is well done. And I just love how the pear in here comes off juicy, which is incredible because I'm getting that from my sense of smell. So it's almost like I'm gonna bite into a juicy pear, which in my opinion means that the fruit note is well done in here. So the fragrance is an aldehydic fragrance, and that's why I said it might be a little bit reminiscent of something a little vintagey, but not super vintagey. It's definitely a modern take and totally wearable. It's a soft fragrance, it's a powdery fragrance. Fragrantica considers this a fruity chypre. I would not describe this as a heavy chypre fragrance or as full-bodied as or as rich as something like Jubilation 25 by Amouage, let's say. This one is much more fresh. It's much more soft. It has green components, yes. It has floral, powdery components, yes. But none of it is overtly coming off skin like in an aggressive way or in a super rich way. I think that it's a soft, sort of fresh chypre fragrance, perfect for summer with this excellent, juicy pear note, and I really like this one. I just think it smells so pretty, so fresh, but of course test the fragrance because I've read reviews about this fragrance and I feel like some consider it a little boring, and that may be true for some people, but for me, Yes, it has a simplicity, but I think it's well done. And I don't own fruity fragrances, and this one is the type of fruity fragrance that I would wear, would own, because the fruit is subdued and it's kind of mild, but at the same time, it's so well done and it's recognizable. So that's La Belle Helene from MDCI. So the next one is a new release from the house of BDK, and this is Impadia. I think this was released in 2025. I'm not sure exactly when. And I did want to get my nose on this. I also want to get my nose on Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Kirky, just out of curiosity, even though I know I'm going to think that it's too sweet based on everyone's reviews on that fragrance. This one, I was curious. It's pink juice, I believe. BDK is not a house that I'm super interested in, although I do have the one fragrance, Crème de Cure, which I actually really love. I like wearing that sometimes to bed at night. This one, without reading any reviews, without hearing one thing, I got my nose on it, and I immediately thought, okay, I know exactly how I'm describing this. It's as if Amouage's Guidance and Parfums de Marly's Delina had a child. This would be it. And then I looked, I think, on Fragrantica, and there you have it. Guidance, Delina, as fragrances that this one smells like. So why the release of something that sort of combines these two super hyped fragrances? I'm not sure, but it's incredible. It really does smell like a combination of both. So it basically takes, in my opinion, Guidance, that sort of nutty component that Guidance has, the hazelnuts, the rosiness. It takes it into a juvenile, bright direction of Delina. I would prefer Amouage's Guidance, which I actually sold. I would just prefer to wear that over something like this. It kind of takes Guidance and makes it fresher. And in my opinion, it smells more juvenile than something like Guidance. So Guidance has an aspect to it with that Akigala wood that's just not to my liking. However, there is an aspect of Guidance that I do like, and I'm actually considering Guidance 46. There's something I like. This one, I find it takes it into like this bright, like juvenile direction, and that's where I have a problem with it, like a fresher take on Guidance. And it's just not something that I would wear. It has more of Delina in it than it does of Guidance, the more I'm sort of smelling it off the blotter. It's more of Delina than it is of Guidance, but that's what it smells like. So you can let me know in the comments if you agree with my opinion on this, if you like this fragrance. Guidance I would wear. This I would not. So the next one that I really like is from the house of Puredistance. This one is Antonia. This one I tried on skin about 3 times, and I really am enjoying this. I would like maybe a decant. These fragrances from Puredistance are quite expensive. They're very high-end. They're very high quality. This one has, I believe, a 25% perfume oil, and so it's almost like an extrait. And this fragrance is sort of simple, but I really do enjoy it. It's a little bit vintagey. It's a floral fragrance that opens up with a prominent galbanum note. So it's definitely green with the florals going on as well. I think maybe it's a little bit on the feminine side. Of course, anyone can wear anything. I really do love how this goes into a powdery direction. As this dries down, it sort of starts to lose the green components from the galbanum. There's vetiver in here as well. So there's a freshness, there's a green component to the fragrance. There's actually a lot of green in the opening. And I misjudged the fragrance, and I had to wear it 3 times to get to know it a little better. And I would say that the green from the galbanum sort of dissipates and it goes to the background, and you have this iris rose that goes powdery. Iris goes powdery in fragrances, rose can go powdery in fragrances. In this fragrance, I think you have this iris rose that goes powdery, and you have a prominent ylang ylang, which I am a big fan of. It is sort of a vintage style powdery fragrance, but not vintage in the sense of heavy and cloying, not that type of vintage. Vintage like feminine, sort of floral powdery vintage with a prominent ylang ylang, and I really do like this. It has a simplicity to it, and it sort of has that same powderiness that La Belle Helene has. It's almost as if La Belle Helene is in the same wheelhouse, but takes a fragrance like this into a fruity direction with that pear. This one has the ylang ylang and those green components. And I think it's sort of a soft, easy to wear feminine fragrance. I could see wearing this in the winter, in the summer, in the spring, during the day, in the evening, very versatile. It's pretty, very pretty, but you have to like powdery florals, you have to like ylang ylang. This one is Antonia, and I think it's on my wish list. It is on my wish list. They're just expensive fragrances, and so I might do what I did with Neela Vermeer's Echal. I just ordered the 10 ml decant for vacation, just received it today. 10 ml can probably last me for quite a while, so I might do that with this one. It's a nice one. So the next one that was a little bit of a disappointment, I have an official sample here of Amouage's Reflection Woman. It's not a disappointment in the sense that I don't like what this fragrance smells like. I actually really like what it smells like. The nose behind the fragrance is Maurice Roussel, and in fact, before I even knew that, it sort of reminded me a little bit of Dante Bra. In the opening, it's almost as if I'm smelling a violet in this fragrance. It's pretty. It really is a pretty fragrance. I have used a lot of the decants, and it's a nice size decant. The Amouage official samples are the best, or one of the best, and I can smell it from here. It is a fresh, floral fragrance that sort of gives me the impression that it's paired with something green, but like a juicy green, fresh aspect that's reminiscent of a freshly cut piece of cucumber. It's as if you take slices of cucumber, petals of flowers, very delicate, and you sort of have this over water. There's something watery about the fragrance. There's something fresh about the fragrance. There's something almost ozonic about the fragrance. And it's really pretty in the opening. The problem is when the fragrance dries down, first of all, I feel like I can barely detect the fragrance after an hour or two. And even though I'm not expecting some super performing fragrance for 10 hours, especially when a fragrance is on the fresher side of things, I would like it to last more than an hour or two. So I could get a bottle of this. I would be spraying and respraying, which is what I've done with the official sample. I kept spraying it on myself because I enjoy it. It does smell really nice, and there's something almost purple about the florals in here, and there's definitely green components, but it's never a dark green. It's a fresh green. It's, like I said, almost like a cucumber green. That's what comes to mind. That's what I'm associating it with. And there's something aquatic, there's something watery and wet and fresh about the fragrance. It would be perfect for the summer. I've seen this, especially testers, priced very, very well. Even though I characterized it as sort of a disappointment in today's video, it smells very nice. I do like it, but it might be just a little ordinary smelling as it dries down. The opening is magnificent though. I like it in the opening. So let me know what you guys think of this Reflection Woman. I did hear that Reflection Man is really nice, and I heard that a lot of women like to wear Reflection Man. So maybe I'll get my nose on that one. And the last one that is on my wish list is MAAI by the House of Bogue or Bogue. And this is a house that I've heard a lot about. Some of my favorite fragrance reviewers on YouTube have talked about this house. Ouch110 mentioned a fragrance by Bogue called Leita. It sounds more like a winter fragrance. I will get a sample of that. This one is really, really nice. This is sort of a chypre fragrance, but I feel like it's a modern chypre, and I feel like it has an edge to it. It's a little animalic, and it has sort of the chypre scent profile in the sense that you get the citruses, and then you get these green mossy components. And you get something animalic, and I get something almost a little smoky in here just to make things interesting. It seems like there's something smoky that I'm picking up in the background, and almost something boozy as well. But overall, it comes off, if I had to describe it in a general sense, the minute I got my nose on it, overall, it's a chypre smelling fragrance, a chypre style fragrance. And it's a fragrance that I would not imagine wearing in the warmer weather. So this is not something that I'm looking to get now to wear anytime soon. This is something that I would put on my wish list to revisit and perhaps buy in the fall as the weather is getting colder. The more I get my nose on it, it has hints of Histoires de Parfums 1740. It does remind me of that fragrance, the boozy aspect that I get in that fragrance. It's really well done, and I feel like it's a modern twist on a chypre fragrance, so it's not too vintage smelling. It definitely has an edge, and I feel like I would describe the fragrance as raw. There's something raw about the fragrance, comparing it to something like Jubilation 25, let's say, which is smooth and sort of refined. This one has sort of a raw quality to it. That's not to say that that's a negative. I think it's really well done. And it does remind me of 1740. There are parts of this that totally remind me of that fragrance. So I will have to explore the house of Bogue. I definitely want to get my nose on other fragrances, but this one is MAAI, and I think this one is going to be on my wish list. So that's it for today's discoveries and letdowns. Let me know in the comments if you guys have gotten your nose on any of these fragrances and whether or not you agree with my opinion on some of these or all of these. As usual, thank you so much for watching, your support, and your comments. Until next time, bye guys.